Thank you for checking out crypto.chartguys.com, the source for technical analysis in the cryptocurrency world. We are proud to announce our own crypto alert system designed to give you the most critical technical trading information possible no matter where you are. Keep your eyes on the market with mobile or email alerts for MACD crosses, RSI levels, and even inside bar alerts for dozens of coins across multiple exchanges. New features and proprietary ChartGuys indicators are already in development. Our alert system is very easy to customize and utilize, so don't hesitate to sign up for the most effective crypto trading tool on the market at crypto.chartguys.com. Hello everyone, checking in on a lot of names today. We're going to be looking at the big three as usual. Then we're going to go to some altcoins. We're going to look at NEO, OMG, EOS, ADA, and ICX on the daily time frame. And then we'll zoom in as usual. So what we're seeing here on the daily time frame for Bitcoin is we have lost the higher low pattern, which needed to happen in terms of every day forming a higher low. And we're looking for the higher low on the daily to form. I explained that in depth in the last video in terms of what I'm looking for in terms of that higher low. So check that out if you haven't seen it yet, but this would be ideal scenario for the bulls. If this was our daily higher low and we see continuation, this is a bull flag pattern. After the big move to the upside, this would be very brief consolidation, establishing a higher low, and then seeing continuation if we can break the high of 90.90 that we saw at the top of this move. So as of right now, the long lower wick is a great sign. Again, this is a very healthy pullback if this is all we were going to get. And if the bulls can push through these exponential resistances and follow through with this daily bullish MACD cross, then that would be ideal scenario. If not, it's not the end of the world. Again, was anticipating that this pullback would have to happen, and it might scare a couple people, or more than a couple people, as we head down towards that recent low, but look to form a higher low. Essentially, what we were looking for was the loss of the 4-hour higher low pattern, which did happen, but it happened in a very contained way. And what I mean by that is we have our clear higher low pattern where every consolidation low has been higher. At the end of the last video that we did, we were starting to pull back here and we were looking for yet another higher low to form to stay in this pattern. It formed, and then we formed a little lower low. So we had a little mini lower high and lower low within this range, but still holding the key support down here on the 4-hour time frame that was holding before the big bull move to the upside that we saw up to the top of this move follow through with. So at this point, I mean, we did lose the strongest pattern by losing that little brief period of consolidation, but again, still holding this level is very strong, which is why that daily chart is so favorable at this point. We are looking at a couple resistance now very clearly, as we have some lower high resistances to be watching on the 4-hour, but we still have plenty of higher low supports to be watching from the way up. So at this point, again, just very healthy. And I've got a couple of resistance levels to be watching, 8,800. Take that again, it's 8,480, and then the next level is 8,595. So we're looking for those two levels to break for the bulls to be back in full control. But on the hourly time frame, we need some healthy consolidation, which we are seeing right now. So we woke up this morning, or I woke up this morning and looked and saw, all right, the bulls are showing up. It's a significant move to the upside. The 15-minute RSI at or just above or just under 30 has been a great signal on this bounce. And I'll check that out in just a moment to point it out. But here we are on the hourly trying to change this trend. So we had a solid move all morning, healthy consolidation, establishing a higher low. So on the shorter term levels, the hourly support here is 8,186. And the bulls would love to see an hourly higher low and higher high to shift this momentum back in favor of the bulls. So overall, it's healthy consolidation. The bulls are trying to turn it back in their favor. Let's look at the 15-minute time frame, because overnight, the 15-minute entries have been marked by these RSI levels. So let's just look at every period of consolidation that we've seen here. So RSI dipped just below 30. The bulls showed up and saw a nice follow through. It touched 30 here again. The bulls showed up and saw higher highs. We pulled back again, and even on this way down, as we hit 30, we see short-term bounce opportunities, and at least those opportunities allow a stop loss at break even. So every single bounce the last 4 times from the 30 RSI level has allowed for, some follow through and then a stop loss at break even worst case scenario, which is my favorite position to be in the sense that, worst case scenario, you get all your cash back and you start from scratch and look for another entry. So here last night, we had the RSI dip just above 30. When we were down at the lows there, it was right above 30. Some of the other names did dip right to and just under 30, but that's when the bulls started showing up with higher lows and higher highs and following through with the morning. So just to summarize where we stand, 4-hour time frame, still very healthy. You know, you can make the argument that a bearish reversal head and shoulders may be forming. That is absolutely possible. But until we see a break of 7,750, I'm going to be calling this very, very healthy consolidation at this point. So that's the benchmark for me. And again, if 7,750 breaks, it doesn't mean it's game over on this bounce. It just means we haven't formed our daily high or low yet, and we could pull back into the low $7,000 range. So bulls in control. That's the theme of the thumbnail here, and still holding on just fine. Ethereum, same thing. Daily high or low looking to form here would be a very bullish bull flag with a nice long lower wick, trying to see a brief pause, rejecting from exponential resistance, establish a higher low, and then see follow through. So best case scenario, if the bulls could follow through with this higher low that we have right now. It's pretty much the same analysis of what I just did on Bitcoin. The 4-hour time frame formed a little lower high and lower low over last night, but look at, we held that previous consolidation low of 780, and this is now the most important level in the short term for Ethereum. We bounced off of it 3 of the last tests for 780 support, and I've got resistance right here of 855, this little bounce attempt, and we just pulled back from 850. So 850 and 855, 2 key resistance levels, and 780 is the must-hold support. Look at this 4-hour bull MACD. It's very close. It did cross bearish, but if we establish this base of support and see follow through back to the high of this move, this 4-hour bull MACD cross is going to follow through. Let's check Bitcoin real quick. 4-hour bull MACD cross not too far away, so keeping an eye on that as well. And again, we zoom into the 15-minute time frame. Very healthy higher low, higher high pattern this morning. We consolidated, and now the bulls are trying to take back over, resuming the higher low and higher high pattern on the 15-minute. So the hourly chart is showing us healthy consolidation after a bullish start all morning. Higher low is 821. So 2 supports of 821 and 780 are the most important levels for me on Ethereum. And we've got some resistance at 850 and 855, which are 2 key levels as well. And again, this looks like an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And we could be watching this as well. These have been going off on the 15-minute time frame, giving nice bullish indication for indication that the consolidation is done for now. So that's another potential setup pattern to be watching right now, inverse head and shoulders pattern. So that's where we stand, very bullish overall. I want to point out again for you European traders out there, here's another one of those volume climax that went out last night. The climax oversold alert was literally at the bottom of ETH EUR, went out last night, and we got that follow through from the 636 range, and we went all the way up into the 708 range. So huge follow through on that alert, right down at the bottom, RSI and volume indicating the oversold climax. Checking in on Litecoin, the daily chart. Again, this would be very bullish on Litecoin if this were our higher low. We have our low, lower high, higher low, lower high, and now the bulls would love if 142.26 could hold as our higher low, and a break of 169.49 would be a very bullish signal on this daily chart that we are changing momentum. Same thing, the 4-hour consolidation occurred, but we're still holding the base of that last 4-hour consolidation that had occurred, and we're looking at resistance right now of 156.30, and we pull back just under that level, similar to what Ethereum did, 155.78. So those resistances are right there. Again, we zoom into the hourly and find our higher low to see the strongest support that if the bulls hold it, 150 psychological right there. And we'll see if we can get this inverse head and shoulders pattern to follow through with this break here. So lots of bullish setups, and the red flag on all of this bullish action for all 3 of the names that I just went through will be if the 4-hour previous base of support breaks as support, because that right now is essentially a double bottom for most of these names, or all of these 3. It's a double bottom on the 4-hour time frame, and losing that level would tell us that the bears are not done pulling back on the daily chart. So let's look at some of these altcoins. We got NEO to start it off. NEO on the daily time frame, very similar in terms of rejecting from exponential resistance. We have our low of the dump and our high of the bounce as the 2 most important levels, and we've got our higher low trying to form on the daily with a nice long lower wick here off of 94.29 support. So we look at the 4-hour chart. Again, very similar. We had a clear higher low, higher high pattern, but we did lose a bit more of the consolidation basis. So this is why I love doing my altcoin and individual coin analysis after my Bitcoin analysis, because I can look at this chart and say, okay, if this were the same magnitude of the Bitcoin consolidation, we'd be pulling back to right here, 104, the base of the previous 4-hour consolidation. We broke well below that level, so I can say instantly when looking at this chart, not comparing anything else, I can say that NEO is weaker than Bitcoin on this 4-hour time frame because we pulled back through so many support levels. So just comparatively, if NEO bounced off of the same level, as Bitcoin, or I should say if Bitcoin bounced off the same level as what NEO did, that would mean that Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame pulled all the way back down to this low of 7,200. You can see all of these support levels are holding, and we look at it on NEO, and only one of them is holding, the bottommost one. So that's the comparison that I make. It's not game over on this bounce because the bulls have made a really nice recovery, and they even broke this little 4-hour lower high. That's another difference. Again, sorry to keep flashing back and forth, but that's another difference where Bitcoin has not broken that 4-hour lower high yet. So there's definitely some differences in these charts, and it shows me that, we can see more magnified moves, a more magnified pullback and a more magnified bounce for NEO comparative to Bitcoin. So just bigger percentage volatility, essentially. So where we stand, the hourly higher low is trying to form down here at 103.51, and the setups are essentially the same. There's just these small differences that mark, different patterns, and it's really interesting to see where they stand comparative to each other. So the higher low support is 103.51, resistance is 111.45, and then 120.33, and that's where we stand right now on NEO. Still just fine for the bulls on the daily chart, similar to the big three. OMG on the daily chart, also very similar to the big three. We saw the bounce. We're rejecting from exponential resistance. Bullish MACD cross is ready to go, and the bulls are hoping for a daily bull flag and a bounce with our higher low of 1084. So 1084 is the daily higher low. The top of the bounce is 1365 resistance. The 4-hour time frame took out a couple support levels, but it still held a couple support levels as well. And same thing, we broke the lower high on the 4-hour pattern here as we're trying to recover. So a nice solid follow through bounce. The higher low on the hourly is 1178. Resistance is 1260. And then we're looking back up at that 1365 high of the bounce. So again, same thing. It had a bit more pullback than Bitcoin, but also a stronger bounce recovery from this morning. And we'll see if we can get this hourly higher low and higher high to be heading back to the high of the bounce. EOS USD, look at that. Very similar daily time frame, rejecting from exponential resistance, looking for a higher low on the daily chart to be here at 795. Top of the bounce is resistance at 990, and the 4-hour time frame holding the base of support similar to Bitcoin. So this is the most similar to Bitcoin chart out of the three that we've done so far for these altcoins, because it hasn't broken this 4-hour lower high, and it has held the most recent 4-hour base of support consolidation. So we go to the hourly time frame, we find that higher low that is trying to form. 842 is that level, resistance is 884, and then there's a few other resistance levels to pick out on the way back up, namely 894 and 946. So very similar patterns. You can tell, if you put the most time and effort into the Bitcoin analysis first thing, it makes the analysis of all these other names much, much easier, because I'm looking for essentially the same things, just in a little bit different places. ADA BTC, we have a more of an equilibrium pattern forming on the daily with our low, high of the bounce. We formed a higher low, we formed a lower high, and within that range right now, I'm looking at support of 4023 and resistance of 4840. That is our range that we are currently in, and we're right in the middle of that range. So we're waiting for a clear break, and it's going to have to get over these exponential resistances to get that clear bull break. Looking at the 4-hour chart here, it's just one big equilibrium pattern. We did make a bull break here by breaking the lower high pattern. So now let's see if we can follow through with higher lows and higher highs. Support, ideally, if the bulls could hold it here at 42.79, would be a great sign if we can make our way back up to the recent high of 484. So a little bit different look, but that's because this is in measurement in BTC and all the rest were USD. Checking in on ICX BTC. And just real quick to go over what exchanges they are. NEO is on Bitfinex here. OMG is on Bitfinex. EOS was on Bitfinex. We've got ADA on Bittrex. And ICX BTC is from Binance. So checking in on ICX to wrap it up, the daily time frame, we have our low, high of the bounce, and here's the bulls attempting that higher low, but it's much closer to the recent low than any of the other names that we've looked at. The pullback and the attempted higher low on the daily is forming now, but again, we've been pulling back for about 5 days now, where most of these other charts have only been pulling back for about 2 days. 4-hour higher low pattern was lost long ago. So this is one of the weaker names that we're looking at in all these charts. But again, it's comparative to BTC. So I'm looking at a range right now of 4303 support and 4974 resistance. Hourly time frame shows that tightening range, and the bulls have a lot of work to do. Lots of upper wicks on these bull breaks showing profit taking without many lower wicks to match it showing bulls buying the dip. There's definitely, just visually looking at this chart, you see a lot more upper wicks than lower wicks. That tells you there's a lot more profit taking than there is bulls buying the dip. So that's where we stand on all these names. Again, it's still very healthy consolidation unless we lose the 4-hour base of support, 7,750 here on Bitcoin Coinbase, and watching very close. Can the bulls keep up this bounce and form this daily bull flag and follow through with it? And we'll have that answer day by day. We'll get more information as to whether or not what's more likely to happen, break that support on the 4-hour or break the resistance to see continuation. And we'll have a lot more information even just tomorrow. So I appreciate you watching. We'll tune back in tomorrow and see you then. Have a great rest of your weekend. Do good things.